Well, it only took 14 years, but I think I owe my ex an apology. And this is why. I can see now that what I did is I thought I married somebody that I loved unconditionally and that he loved me unconditionally back. But what I see now is that what I did instead is I only saw what I wanted to see, and I had a job description all worked out as to what he needed to do to get the job. And that list came from whatever I needed or wanted to feel within me that I was not taking responsibility for myself. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that I was looking for a man, a partner, a mate that would meet a list of needs that I had within myself to feel good, to feel happy. And I was not taking responsibility for that myself, and instead looking for outside circumstances or looking for a person to fill that instead. Now, I didn't do this consciously. I did it unconsciously. I didn't know I was doing that. So I was looking for someone who could make money because that would make me feel safe and take care of me. I was looking for someone that was physically strong because that made me feel secure and safe. I looked for somebody who was educated because I had the belief that if you were educated, you could get a better job, make more money, and then they would be able to take better care of me. I was looking for someone with a sense of humor because when I laughed, I felt good. So, the list goes on. And what I realized is this was basically like a job description. He was showing up, and what I was seeing in him was a projection of what I needed. And so we get married, and when he stops meeting my projected needs, which he is completely unaware of, because it's all me, it's all in my head. And when he stops meeting those projected needs, I start to panic. So I want him to be different. I am looking for him to do things so that I feel good. And when he's not doing it, I'm seeing him as being wrong. I'm seeing him as not measuring up. I'm seeing him as not doing what he agreed to do. But he really didn't agree to anything. He just showed up as himself, believing that I was seeing him just as himself, his whole self. But what I was really doing is I was showing up and only seeing my version of him through the filters of what I believe I needed. So, let's move forward. And my husband shows up in my life and he says, I'm in love with someone else. I can't handle you being disabled, and I want a divorce. Okay. Now, our first instinct is to say, wow, what a horrible person. Okay. But let's just take another look at what he did in that maybe one or two sentences. He says, you know what? I can't handle you being disabled. So he's showing up and he's sharing his truth, and he's showing up as himself in that moment. And he's telling me what he wants. He's saying, I don't want to be with someone who's disabled. Now, if I'm able to hear that clearly and without interpretation or without filtering it of what that means for me, if I'm just able to hear what he's saying what he wants. And if I loved him just as he was, I would want him to have what it is that he wants. Because that feels loving. But instead, what I did is I said, maybe not in these words, but I don't care what you want. I want you to show up and behave and act and do what I want you to do so that I'm happy. And so regardless of what you feel about me being disabled, you need to show up and love me anyway. That's crazy. Who's the crazy one there? Is it him who shows up and says, this is what I want and I'm going to go after it? Or is it me saying, you need to do what I want. It doesn't matter what you want. That's insanity. And so let's look at it again. So this man who I say I love shows up and says, you know what? I don't want to be married to you anymore. And if I'm able to open myself up and just hear that, this man that I love says, I don't want to be married to you anymore. And if I really truly loved him, I would want him to have what he wants. But instead, what I did is I said, or maybe not said, but reacted to that as, you can't want anything other than what I want. I want you to be married to me regardless of what you want. It does not matter what you want, because what's important is what makes me happy. And what I think makes me happy right now is for us to stay married. So that's what you need to do. That does not feel loving. And then ultimately, he says, I'm in love with another woman. So if I loved him, would I not want what he wants for himself? If I truly love him without expectation, unconditionally, would I not want him to love who he loves? That feels loving. But what did I do? I said, I don't care that you love someone else, because you told me you love me, so you need to keep loving me. You need to keep loving me regardless if you love someone else. You need to stop that, and you need to step up and love me. And it does not matter what you want. So here we are, we're in these relationships where we believe that we're loving someone, but are we really? Are we loving them, or are we loving the version of who we believe them to be? And when they step away from that version, when they start to do things that they want, or do things differently, or behave in a way that we never noticed or overlooked, we say, stop that. Stop that and be the person I want you to be, because that's what makes me happy. So if this is what we're doing, how do we do that differently? How do we look at our lives and love unconditionally? I believe the biggest step is that we have to take a look at how we are attaching our perceptions to ourselves and to the people in our lives and examine what is it that we are requiring from ourselves or from others in order to feel good. Because if we can identify those, we can start to examine how we can feel all that within without relying on other people to do that for us. We need to start taking responsibility for how we are feeling. We need to take responsibility for the thoughts that we're projecting and the expectations that we're placing on the world. And instead, draw that emphasis inward. So I was looking for someone who could make money because that would make me feel safe and take care of me. I was looking for someone that was physically strong because that made me feel secure and safe. I looked for somebody who was educated because I had the belief that if you were educated, you could get a better job, make more money, and then they would be able to take better care of me. I was looking for someone with a sense of humor because when I laughed, I felt good. So, the list goes on. And what I realized is this was basically like a job description.